Hey everyone, it's Jason. Welcome to a video for Dice Throne. So I'm going to be doing a bunch of unboxings for the Season 1 characters, Season 2 characters adventure. I've already done Marvel, you could have checked that out. But what I thought I'd do is just do a separate video where I explain how to play it. So when I do them unboxings, I don't have to re-explain at the beginning of every video. I can just direct you back to this one. So if you're coming from there, welcome. So what Dice Throne is, overall, it's a Yahtzee style game. You're going to get each character you get. Now you can either buy it in a big giant box set, which will have all the Season 1 characters, or Season 2 characters, or all the Marvel characters, or 8, or they come in like some sets of 4 and then 2 packs separately. So basically, the more characters you play, you can mix and match. What you're going to get for each character is you're going to get a fold-out board, which is going to have, it's going to show all the different stuff you can do. Basically, you roll dice, these are your different abilities that you can activate, and that's how we get the Yahtzee portion of it. You're going to get a leaflet here, which will explain how your character is played. It's going to show what's all the different dice, so here's all my dice here. So you're going to have one side that's going to be, each guy's going to have side 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And you'll have 3 that'll be swords, 2 that'll be life, and 1 that'll be POW. And this is for the barbarian. Each different character will have their own set of different unique dice with different symbols. Some will have 3, 2, 2. Some will have 3, 3. Could have 3, 3, 3. Usually it's always like this, but they could have 2, 2, and 2. They could have some different orders. Then here's going to show like different tokens or different abilities they create. And then the other side is going to have a couple other cool things on here. One is going to have a complexity list. Let's see if I can zoom up. I'm using my new camera, so I hope I can get this up. We'll have a complexity list of 1 to 6, just kind of showing how difficult the character is to use. Barbarian is a guy of 1. He's very simple. He's pretty straightforward. Doesn't have a lot of extra tokens. There's just a little bio and information about him, plus some frequently asked questions that sort of explain how his abilities and tokens work. Then on the bottom, it's also going to show what each character is supposed to have. So in case for some reason, end of the game, you forget who's supposed to have what or how many tokens, because some of them do share the same tokens. So this will go through and explain all that. The other thing we're going to get in the tray is we're going to get a little spinner dial here for combat points. This is essentially what you use to pay for your cards. Your CP, which is very important. We have our health dial, keeps track of your health, of course. Each character is going to get their own little ones for each of these. We have a space in here for your other tokens, so like he gets 3 tokens. Other characters could have 5, 6, 10. A bunch of different shaped ones. You also have another pile here for those. And then you get your set of cards. So every character is going to have a certain set of cards that are specifically for them. A handful of cards. I think it's about 20 cards, roughly-ish. It changes from character to character. Then they're going to have a set of cards here that every character is going to have. So these will always be the same no matter what. So it's half of like a static deck, and then half of it is a character-specific deck. And then we'll get a timing card and a turn order card. So how exactly do we play, and what is the point to play? The point is to knock your opponent's health down to 0. And then how do we play is very simple. So let's see if I can zoom up on that. So winning the game is reducing your opponent's health to 0. So it's typically a 1v1 game, although you can play 2v2, or you could play a 4-player free-for-all. Then there's the adventure mode game, which is a separate set you can buy, which adds some co-op and it's a little bit of RPG elements. The overall gameplay will be the same, so what I talk about in this, you'll have to have played the game before to know how to play it, but it does add some extra things. Now there are some tutorials you can do, so if you want to see a little bit better representation, you can always go right to Dice Throne and check out theirs. Then they have some lore. Yep, so here's basically the setup for the game. I've kind of already shown all this, but this booklet does really nice on the side here. It's going to say your hero board, leaflet, tokens, health dial, combat point dial, your deck of cards, your dice, and additional setup. And it's going to show you putting all that stuff there. So you lay your board out, you get your deck, your dice, all your different stuff set up. And you put all your tokens stacked on your board. So in that way, like this character, for example, the Gunslinger has 4 different things that create tokens. And you can see his cards here are bullets, dash, and bullseye. So the numbers all work the same. The symbols are going to be unique to each character. And then for actually setting up, so stack all your tokens on there. Set your health down to 50 points for a 1v1. It may change if you're playing more players. And then shuffle your deck and draw 4 cards. So whenever you have to talk about cards, you have a little white symbol like that to be easy to tell it's a card. And CP for gaining any combat points are always going to have that little triangle. So this makes it really easy to tell that. And then it's going to have a die. Anytime it's easy to roll a die, it's going to show a picture of a dice. The game is very simple to figure out that way. So some heroes require additional sets. If applicable, these sets will be located on your leaflet. Some of them might tell you to place a certain card somewhere else or set an extra deck aside. Because they're all very unique characters. Then how do we actually play? The game is made up of 8 steps or 8 phases. But like most games, if you played them, watch these phases go really fast and you won't even really kind of pay attention or acknowledge them as you play more and more. So the upkeep phase is resolving the upkeep maintenance generally specified by effects. So if you have something that says at the beginning of the upkeep or beginning of the turn, that's when you do that. Otherwise, you just breeze by that. Income phase is you gain 1 CP and draw 1 card from your deck. Starting players skip it their first turn. Again, very typical for most card games. Then we have step 3 here. Let me see if I can zoom in on this a little bit better. We have step 3, which is the main phase. So the main phase, you can spend your CP, your combat points to play hero upgrade cards or main phase cards, or sell to discard unwanted cards for 1 CP. So if you have a card that maybe is not going to help you for some reason, get rid of it to gain more points to play more cards. And then this little M symbol is really nice because that's showing cards that are actually for your main phase. So I'm gonna look at them quick. So in your deck here, you're going to have several different types of cards. So we're going to have orange cards here. So zoom up on that correctly up. We have the roll action phase. So it's going to specifically tell you what happens during that roll action phase, which is orange, has a little symbol of a die. And then you have red ones here are instants with the exclamation point. And we have blue ones here, say main action phase, that have that M and a timer. So it's going to tell you specifically when to play them. They're going to match the colors on here as well. So like you have your main phase, which is blue, you play the blue cards. You have the orange ones, you play them during the orange phase. The red ones, which are instants, can be played whenever the card says it can be played. And then you have, so after you go to our main phase, basically you're going to play cards to either upgrade your hero or gain you extra cards or do extra various effects. Then you're going to play your offensive roll phase. Now this is the bulk of the game. It says roll any number of your dice up to 3 roll attempts to activate a single offense ability that your final die result meets the activation requirement on one of your cards. So here's going to show this is basically saying what you're doing here. You're going to roll dice. You're going to either try and meet one of the symbols on your cards, or a small straight, or a large straight, or whatever you need to do. There's a targeting roll phase. So if you're playing with more than 2 players, you can choose who to target, and that has some little different consequences or actions, like who you can and can't target. But 1v1, you're always targeting your opponent. And then the defensive roll. So if you activate an attack during your offense, if you rolled your dice and you actually did perform an attack, now the target of your opponent gets to now roll their defense dice. So every board, every character, will have a defense one. So they're going to have all these red ones here, or their various colors. They're going to be their main abilities, and they're always going to have a green one here at the shield. That's their defense. Some characters will also have a purple one, which is a passive ability. So it's always active to be used. So then after your attack phase is done, you get to do your main phase. It's the same as your base one. You get to play more cards in case maybe after you attack your opponent, maybe there's something else changed in the game field you want to do. And then finally your discard phase. You can sell your cards to gain 1 CP if you have 6 or fewer cards. Until you have 6 or fewer cards. If you ever have more than 6 cards, you have to sell down. But this would be again a great way is after the stuff is changed, you can decide what to do. So that's very simple there. So just a couple of clarifications on some of this stuff. So the health is you can, once your health is reduced to 0, you lose. If all remaining players are simultaneously reduced, the game is reduced to 0, the game is a draw. An opponent cannot be more dead than you. But you may heal up to a maximum of 10 points over your starting health. With your combat points, your CP is primarily spent to pay for cards. Now there's going to be other things that might let you spend it on abilities and such, because again, every character is a little bit different. You can have a maximum of 15. If you already have some, it doesn't do anything, plus you always gain 1 every turn. So that's important to know, is you can only get up to 15, so you don't want to, so there's no reason not to keep playing cards, at least somewhat. Now you might not want to always spend all the way down to 0, or down to 0 every turn, just because it's a good bluffing mechanic, saying, oh, I have 4 left, you might play an instant card. So then here's all the different stuff for that. So we're going to skip over that for the moment. We kind of looked at the leaflet a bit, and this just re-explains it. Status, companion effects, if they have, their various things. Dice key, complexity rating, hero setup, if they have something special, things like that. And it says, each hero has a unique set of status effects. These are the tokens. If you need more tokens are provided, represent them as something else. So essentially, if a character comes with 5 tokens, if for some reason you can generate a 6th token, you can still do that. Now there's positive or negative status effects that can be gained or inflicted. Basically, positive are typically put on yourself or one of your teammates if you're playing with a team, and negative are usually put on the opponents. I say usually, again, because stuff can always get changed. Whenever you gain or inflict a status effect, take a corresponding token from your hero leaflet and place it in the middle of the player's board. So they put them like on their picture there. As a reminder, they have them. This is now can be considered to be in play if the player is defeated. Status effects that inflict on another player remain in play. So if I put a token on somebody and then I get defeated, that token would still stand there if I'm playing multiplayer. So you can, there's some that are removable. If you're returning to the hero's leaflet. Spendable. Some let you spend them. So instead of it just being like an ability, that a token that says, hey, you take extra damage, or you can't do something. There are some that they go on and they're like, you can spend this to now roll extra dice, or change a die effect, or something like that. And then there's some that are persistent, which stay on there until something removes it. There's also a stack limit, so many status effects can be applied multiple times to a hero, creating a stack of them. The stack limit is representing the maximum number of tokens a particular status effect can be on a single hero at a given time. So a stack with 2 can only have a maximum of 2 on each player. So if we look at the Barbarian here, and his tokens, he has Concussion, which is a negative status effect. So it's a limit of stack 1. So you can only put 1 concussion on each player. Now, if you're playing like a 4-player game, you could put a concussion on all 3 other players. In that case, you look at the fact that you only have 2 tokens in the game, so you'd have to find a 3rd one. Although, with something like this, it says, its effect says skip income phase, and then a player afflicted with this token must skip their income phase and then remove this token. So the chances are you're gonna, I don't know if it's gonna be super likely or super often you're going to inflict 3 tokens before someone else has a turn. So, but it could happen. And then the other one they have, like for him, is he also has Stun, which also has a stack limit of 1, which says perform an offensive roll. So this first line just kind of gives you a brief, hey, you've played this before, this is what it does. And then the bottom part explains it a little bit better. So the player afflicted with this token may take no actions of any kind, and after the attack concludes, the player who inflicted stun removes the token and then immediately targets the same opponent with an additional offensive roll. Yeah, so that's kind of neat. So then you can basically stun someone and you can hit them a second time. Alright, then there are some things that will increase stack limits. There's unique effects. They fundamentally break the standard status effect rules explained in the description, so some have unique. So usually unique ones have a custom shape or size. So all of traditional status tokens are little tiny circles, but then some of them can be a little bit bigger. And I'll pull out another set and we'll show them off in a minute. Well, they kind of show some here. We have like companions or other bigger ones like that. Then finally there are hero cards. There are two types of hero cards you're going to get. There are upgrade and action cards. So during your income phase, you draw a card from your deck. If you need to draw a card, if your deck is empty, shuffle it and create a new discard pile. So you don't have to worry about running out of cards. Cards cost 0 are free to play. So all cards that cost 1 no matter how much it costs to play. So if you have a card that costs like 2 or 3 points to play, you can't sell it for 2 or 3 points. It's always sold for 1. So it's more or less if you have more than 6 cards, you're going to be drawing a bunch of cards. Or something that just doesn't work for the time being. You can get rid of stuff. So that is kind of how that works. So what I want to do here, before I go any further, is let's kind of show off what a turn looks like. So if I'm playing as the Barbarian here, I'm going to start my turn. I'm going to roll all 6 dice. And then this is why I say it becomes Yahtzee. So now I have to decide what I want to do. I have 3 swords. I forgot what these are called. A power and a life. So now I have to decide which one of my attacks I would like to do. Now, I can re-roll the dice up to 2 more times. Now, granted, with 3 swords already, my best bet is to do something that already has 3 swords. So, the Barbarian has a couple of options. I could either start with smack. I could either just do smack right away and deal 4 damage. Or I could try and roll to get 4 or 5, deal 6 or 8 damage. Alternatively, I have 1 sun, so I could keep 2 and keep 1 of my suns and try and go for a sturdy blow, which is for undefendable damage. Or I could try and shoot for overpower, which gives me some better things. Now, it doesn't make too much sense for me to go for heal, because I only got 1 of the life rolls. And also, beginning of the game, I don't have any damage. Then on the other side here is we do have crit bash. It might not be worth trying to roll for these because I only have 1 and I need 4 more or 3 more, and it's the hardest one to roll. And then you also have the option of doing Mighty Blow and Reckless Blow, which are straight. So small straight and large straight are numerical numbers in order. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, do I have that? I have 3s, 5, and 6s. So I'd have to roll at least a 4 with 1 of my dice. I could re-roll 2 of these and try and roll 4 to do my Mighty Blow, which does 9 damage, which isn't a bad deal either. But the thing is, if I roll both of these and I don't roll a 4, which is one of my other life ones, I might lose out on being able to do any sort of attack. So it's kind of a gamble on what you like to do. Sometimes it just depends on what you have. And it doesn't make sense for me to go after my ultimate because I need a Yahtzee of the 6s. So what I'm going to do is, let's say we're going to try and go for the smack ability. Or let's try and go for sturdy blow. So we're going to start with that. We're going to re-roll this one once. Because if we get another star, we can do sturdy blow, which does better than getting another sword. Oh, better than only having 3 swords. So we're going to roll that. We got 1 more sword. So I got 4 swords. So now either I could try again for that, or I could stick with my 4 swords. I'm going to take my 3rd dice. We're going to re-roll our sun. And we got another sun. So the best I can do here is do my 4 swords, and we're going to deal 6 damage. So that's not too bad. Now, if I had cards that I played earlier, or if I have instant cards, I could do other stuff. Such as, you have an instant card like this, which is called Tip It. Increase or decrease the die of any value by 1. Now, I could have used that to try and get that straight. That would have potentially been an option I could have tried to do. Yeah, so that's the only thing I have for instances that I could use. But I do have stuff I can use during my roll phase. So I could have used 6-It, which changes the value of one of my dice to a 6. So that would have I could have used that instead when I rolled this, and I rolled this last 1, or when I rolled this last 6 again. I could play the 6-It instead, pay my 1 point there, my 1 CP, play my card, and I could change this to a 6. Now I have my Sturdy Blow for my undefendable damage. Basically there I have to decide. Actually no, here I can actually do my Overpower ability. So I can, if I did that, I have 3 swords and 2 bursts. I could roll 3 dice, then deal damage equal to the total roll. If the roll is at least 14, inflict a concussion. So let's do that instead. So now I'm going to get to roll 3 dice. And I did 5, 9, 10. I only did 10 damage. So I don't get a concussion. But 10 damage was better than me doing this for 4 undefendable, or doing 6 over here. So I did 4 more damage than I could have, but it cost me 1 point. But 1 point's not that big of a deal, because I gained 1 point at the beginning of the turn. But you have other different ones like that you can play. And I'm not going to get too much into each one of their cards. But that's what we're going to do. So those are those. And then the main phase cards, let's look at some of them quick. Yeah, something like this is going to let you roll 1 die to gain half the value of CP, so you can gain some extra money. This one costs 2, so what's the status effect? You can remove all status effect tokens from a chosen player. Now, this can be good and bad, because you can either remove negative from yourself, or positive from an opponent. But the problem is, if you have a negative and a positive, it's going to get rid of both of them. Or you have transfer 1 token effect. Now, these are the base ones that everybody has. Now, the Barbarian himself is going to have some other interesting ones. Like, during his main phase, he can play Concuss, which inflicts a concussion on a chosen opponent. Or he has his attack modifier, lets him roll 5, he has 1 damage per sword, and then inflict Concuss. So I could have done that to add on top of my extra damage. So like, I just did that attack and it did 10 damage. I could play this for another 2. I could roll 5 of my dice. I thought I had 6 dice. I guess 1, 2, 3. I do have 6 dice. Am I missing one? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. One of my dice got away somewhere. I'll have to look for that. But if I played that, it says 1 per every sword. So I it would have cost me 2 more CP for a whopping extra 2 damage. But that would have put me up to 12 damage and inflict that concuss status on someone. So whether that was worth it or not, here or there. That's what we have for those. Then we have hero upgrade cards we can play, which are the last type of cards you have in your deck. So these are all white bordered. Some have green border, which go on your defense cards, and then some have purple, which go on your passive. So they're kind of separated that way. So you have your blue for main phase, orange for attack phase, red for instant, and then your white, green, and purple are your upgrades, and they specify kind of which one. So to play that, you just spend your points. So what's really fun about, that's what makes this game really fun too, is I can spend these cards to up my abilities. So we were looking at Sturdy Blow before. I could upgrade it with 1 CP to now it does 5 undefendable damage. So it costs the same, but it's going to do more damage. So that's definitely a fun one to have. We are also looking at Smack, which is one of our other ones. I go to Smack 2, which now instead of dealing 4, 6, or 8 damage, it does 5, 7, or 9, so it does 1 damage extra for each. But also, if I get a 4 of a kind numbers, the attack becomes undefendable. So it gives me a bonus there. Some characters will get a second upgrade like this, which now ups it to 6, 8, and 10, so it does even more damage. And it keeps their 4 of a kind. Sometimes this will change to a 3 of a kind. Not every character gets upgrades for every card. Not every character gets a second upgrade. It's different for each character. We also have some like this, which are Crit Bash, and then Crit Bash and Crit Smash. So you get 2 different abilities now on this. Actually gives you an additional ability. So now the first one stays basically the same, except instead of 5 damage, now it does 7 damage. But then for 3 guys, I can instead concuss and then do 2 damage. So it gives me a way to spend a little bit cheaper abilities. And again, not every character is always going to have that. So he does have one for that. Now, he doesn't have any upgrades. Oh, he does have one upgrade. One upgrade to his defense. So he can have his thick skin, so he can upgrade that. But again, not everybody has an upgrade for everything. It kind of depends how the players are doing. So we've kind of explained how all that works. And that just places on top of the card. So if I upgrade thick skin, I just put it on here, and now that's treated as thick skin. So you probably don't want to keep rolling on your board like I was doing before, because if you have tokens on here and you have cards, they're going to keep sliding off. So we talked about the different action cards and when you can play them. Instant cards can be played at any time during any player's turn. May be played to interrupt actions or abilities, except other instant actions, and are resolved to melee or interrupt actions completed afterwards. So you can't interrupt one instant with another one, but you can play it at any time. Some are just something like this, gain 2 CP. Some do other different stuff. And then we have like resolving text on cards. So it says rolling a number of dice, do that. On symbol, so it says on whatever symbol you get to do this. And then multiplies just times the quantity. There are some things that say then or. So if it says deal damage, then gain a crit. So it says after you spend a status effect and play instant or action cards on a point of a then statement, the following effect is performed after the effects that came before it. So like this is going to say deal 3 undefendable damage, dot. It's going to stop. It's going to deal 3 undefendable damage. Then afterwards you're going to do the crit and accuracy tokens. So if that's an or statement, you have to choose one or the other, and then it does that. And then the ones that have a colon says deal 6 damage, roll 5 dice, and that's going to say which ones that do that. So like adding damage adds additional to what you already did. And then like on B it says if you roll that die, you get to do this effect. If you roll this dice, you get that effect. Now you could easily roll a bunch of these or a bunch of those and get a bunch of them and never roll any of the first damage, and that's perfectly fine. Then there are some things that say steal, which basically are what that means. You take something your opponent has, they lose it, you gain it. Alright, so that's the gist of it. So the other thing I do want to show off is just a little bit closer is the damage. So now if during my opponent's turn they attack me, they roll your dice, they get to do their attack. Now I can use my defense. It says fixed sting, I get to roll 3 dice. So I roll 3 dice. For every heart I get to heal 2. So I get to heal 2 damage. So that can be very helpful to prevent damage. Now, what's interesting is not every single character has a healing or a defense. Some have things they'll have a little shield, which means it blocks damage. Lots of other characters might be like they'll just inflict other tokens, they'll do other things. It's different, again, for every character. So you can't just assume a defense ability is going to be something that's going to keep you alive. It's not something that's going to keep up. I was thinking I had 6 dice. I'm wrong. You do have 5 dice. These are the 6 sides of the dice. So, and my brain was just thinking I lost the dice for some reason. Alright, so the last thing I do want to look over is a little bit more advanced thing. This is how damage works. It's actually a little bit more advanced. It's what you kind of need to know. So there's different types of damage. There's defendable, avoidable, modifiable, and special targeting rules. So if it just has the black circle, it's regular damage. If it has a red circle around it, it means it's undefendable. So basically, undefendable means they don't get to roll their defense dice. That's all that means. So it says, if damage is a result of your opponent's offensive ability, you may perform your defensive ability. If it's undefendable, they don't get to do that. Now, then there are cards that are avoidable. Avoided can be reduced, prevented, avoided, or interrupted by status cards or effects. So you might have a card that says they can avoid the damage, they can prevent half the damage, any of that stuff. Something cannot be so an undefendable damage can't be rolled against it. It's defendable, but it can still be avoided. Modifiable means it can be changed up or down. And special targeting rules more or less have to do with multiple players. So it's not used too much with regular things. So this does actually kind of show which ones do which, and there's a little chart here. So we got pure damage up here at the top, which is an undefendable, so it's that red circle, followed by the words pure damage. The difference is it's still not defendable, but it is avoidable and preventable, but it's not modifiable. So it's like a special damage type that can't be modified. So basically regular damage, someone can defend against it, they can try and reduce it, or you can upgrade it, any of that type of stuff. Dodge it, whatever. Undefendable means they can still try and dodge it or prevent it in some way, but they don't get a roll defense. Pure is going to mean they can still avoid it or try and prevent it, but they can't dodge it and they can't change it. And then collateral damage is still red, so it's undefendable, but it is avoidable, not modifiable, but has special targeting rules. Usually it's for multiplayer games, it's like collateral damage, like it hits this target and then collateral damage to the next two players, type of thing. And then finally, every character has an ultimate attack, which has ultimate damage, which still has the red circle. It's not defendable or avoidable, so if you can pull off your ultimate attack, you'll get in your Yahtzee. It's pretty crazy. It can be modifiable, only maybe increased, not decreased. So you can boost your ultimate, but your opponents can't reduce it. And that damage chart just kind of shows what all those are. So the main things you need to remember is ultimate damage can't be blocked, can't be avoided, but you can increase its attack. And then collateral and pure damage can't be modified, and then everything except for normal damage can not be defended against. So it's pretty easy to say. So like here's an attack modifier. I'll say attack modifier on the card. It says roll 5 dice, add this much damage to it. Pretty simple. There's stuff for playing 4-player games, 2-player, you can play 3-player. There are other modes to play as well. This is actually a full turn breakdown. I'm not going to go through all this. We kind of went through this, but your upkeep. This is a really good thing for the thing. It's going to show how you can do everything a little bit better. Income, sell your cards, main phase, upgrade cards, attempt up to 3 dice roll, reroll any for first time or the second time. Again, if you roll the first time, you get great odds. You don't have to reroll a second or third time. If your teammate or opponent have altered any dice at this point, you may now different offensive ability or on the new final roll. So if you roll something, you're like, sweet, I can do this, but then your opponent switched one of your dice, now you have to pick a different ability. Then you activate that specific ability. Then from there you do the targeting, pick who you're going to choose if there's multiple opponents. Then they get to roll their defense, and then after you finally do the defense, you calculate all the damage. Main phase 2 and discard phase. Final damage is calculated kind of interesting. So determine the incoming damage. So the amount of damage waiting to be dealt to at any point during the game. Most frequently comes from offensive and defensive abilities, but can also come from status effects like Pyromancer's Burn or Shadow Thief Poison. And then it says add or subtract the subtotal. So we're now applying anything that is used in the addition or subtracting affecting incoming damage, defensive abilities, status effects, or cards that would subtract, prevent, or add specific amounts of damage applied through incoming damage. This is your subtotal. And then you're going to multiply and divide. So you're doing your math in the proper order. Kind of. Because usually you do all the positives and then all the negatives. You add and multiply. We're going to do the simple addition and subtraction. Then you do the multiply and divide. Let's just finally calculate any effect incoming damage is multiplication or division. All the division and multiplication is applied at the end regardless of what order the card's in. So although you can kind of chain cards together during combat, like I can play my ability and then I could play a card to modify it, and my opponent could play something, they could play another ability, I could play something in reverse. You don't go backwards like you normally would do in like a game of, let's say, Magic the Gathering. Instead, all the totals are added up. So here's an example of the Barbarian versus the Paladin. So it's actually a really cool system. So in the red, text is Barbarian, the blue are the Paladin. So the Barbarian activates his Overpower offensive ability, which deals 18 damage. Paladin spends a Retribution status effect, which will deal half the incoming damage back to the Barbarian. Paladin uses his Protect status, which will prevent half the incoming damage. Then activates his Defying Defense 3 ability, which will prevent 3 damage. He also gains a Protect token. The Barbarian plays his Get Some Attack modifier, which adds a concussion and adds plus 5 damage. The Paladin plays Absolution, which will prevent 3 damage, and spends his other Protect status effect, which will again prevent half of the incoming damage. So that sounds like a lot of stuff, but then we start breaking it down. So a lot of stuff just happened. Let's calculate. So determine the incoming damage. So we're sending 18 damage from the Barbarian. So then we're adding and subtracting our totals. So from our 18, we're going to minus the 3 damage from the Divine Defense, plus 5 damage from the Get Some, and then minus 3 from Absolution. So it's bringing us back down to 17. So now you could really do these almost in any order. You could just like 18 plus 5, then minus 6. It should always equal it the same. That's not probably a big deal with addition and subtraction because, you know, if you get into negative for some reason and you just add it back up into a positive. And then we take that 17 damage and we multiply and divide the final totals. So it says you do each of these simultaneously and independently. So the event 2, the step 2, it says the Retribution token. So it says 17 damage divided by 2 does 9. So 9 damage is getting sent back from to the Barbarian. Then the Protection takes that 17, is going to divide it by 2. So we blocked half of that 17, which is 8, but you round it, or it's 8.5, so you're going to round it up. And then he does it again the second time, so he prevented another 9 damage. So each one is done separately by itself. Then you take all of them and you figure it out. So from the 17 damage, you're going to subtract 9 he blocked, and then the second time he blocked another 9. So he's going to actually do minus 1 damage. And then using the Protect twice, he prevents all damage, which meets the final total of the Paladin receives as 0. Additionally, the Barbarian received 9 damage in the turn since the Paladin sent his Retribution token. So, in the end, all of that, I mean, it started off with the Barbarian doing 18 damage, and it results in the Barbarian taking 9 damage. So that's kind of crazy how it works, but that's how powerful a prevention ability such as dealing half damage can be. But the thing is, though, he did, like, you might say, well, that's crazy. Yes, but the thing is, the Paladin's doesn't have an infinite supply of these tokens. He only has so many of them, and he can use them. So if he used both in this battle, chances are he's not going to have any by the next time, by next Barbarian's next turn. So if he does 18 on the next turn, he's probably going to take most of that damage. So that is what we have. Another quick references on the back of all of that other stuff. Alright, so that's kind of what I wanted to go over. I'm going to grab out one other character here just to show off some of the different tokens and stuff. So here we have the Treant. As you can see, he has a passive ability, which says during your upkeep, grow 1 spirit, which is one of his special things. And then he has his defense ability. It says prevent 1 shield for each branch rolled, and then 1 shield for each spirit rolled. And then if you roll 2 leaves, you get to grow a spirit. So his is actually more of a straight up defense, where the barbarians is a healing. So each one has, again, a little bit different stuff there. And then now if you look at his leaflet, he's going to have 2 circle cart tokens, Barbed Vine and Wellspring, but he also has some special spirits that start out, which are different shaped. And he's a complexity of 6 because you have to focus on growing these spirits each turn to get it. So it says, then 1 spirit at the beginning, or once each turn to receive one of the following effects. To grow a spirit means to gain a seedling or upgrade an existing spirit from a seedling to a sapling to a dryad. You can spend 1 each turn, or you can use other cards to let you grow them. So if you have this seedling, you get 1 ability. If you can upgrade them to a sapling, you get a different ability, and upgrade it to the dryad, you get an even better ability. And then they say they have like odd shaped tokens to show that they're different. But yeah, then he's gonna have like his deck, so he's gonna have some different attack modifiers. He's gonna have a couple more main phase cards. Then he has all his upgrades, but now he might not have as many upgrades because he has other main phase cards. And then they have their base ones that everybody has. And that's kind of what his dice tray looks like. So it's not nearly as full, but you have all your dice in there. So that is what we have. Alright, that is Dice Throne, the rules. That's a very, very brief overview. But now when I go through the unboxings, if you watch this, I don't have to re-explain all the different steps and what everything means, hopefully. Although I probably will throw in little things here and there. Alright, hope you guys